Guys, BBI here. I want to stop and say thanks for tuning in and checking out whatever the video is about that's about ready to come up next. If you could take a minute and hit subscribe, I greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy what you've seen here, make sure to hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Anyhow, guys, all that aside, let's get on with the show. I think we're going to start here. I think I'm going to bring him into the storyline here, Tesla. I am. Okay, good evening. It's 11:30 at night. I actually went in the house and I laid down. I got all comfortable. I snuggled up next to my wife. We were sitting there watching some TV program and I fell asleep. Now, it's horrible for me when it happens, because it was like 9:45 at night. I don't know what it is. I got a curse. Like, I'll fall asleep and then 20 minutes later I'll wake up, bing, wide awake, screwed. I'll lay there for like another hour trying to get back to sleep. I should take up drinking or something, that way I can fall back asleep, but I just don't like the flipping hangover. So instead of laying there watching the boob tube, I thought I'd come out here and I'd start working on this. I've been working on this now off and on for about 3-4 weeks now, intermixed with having a really good close friend of mine coming to hang out for a couple weeks, traveling over to Seattle, over to Puyallup Ham Fest, spending a ton of money there, taking care of business left and right, and doing everything else on the side. Came home and have been banging out 1 amp per day, and now I'm to this big guy. This is an 8-pill. Now, this is for my friend David Mackey. David is, I don't know how to describe David. He's very busy, I think would be the best way to put it. And I get on the phone with him, and for some reason, I just get exhausted within 10. That's what I should do, is I should just call him on the phone. Why didn't I think of that, Tesla? Tesla's sitting here behind me on the floor looking at me like, what are you talking about, Dad? I should just, whenever I need to go to sleep, I should just call David, spend 10 minutes on the phone with David, and I'll go in the house exhausted and pass out. I don't know what it is about David. He's like my kryptonite. I get on the phone with him, and bam, I just want to go to sleep. Or I just want to get off the phone, and I want to go do anything else. I don't know why. I don't know why. And I'm a people person. Believe me when I tell you this, because there's so many of you guys that ran out of Puyallup with selfies. It was unbelievable. I went outside to go vape, and I'm standing on the opposite side of the building where all the people are at. Still people are coming up, hey, BBI. It was neat. It was really neat to get to see everybody and getting to meet a bunch of people. I had a bunch of people come up to me and tell me how much they enjoy the videos, which that means more to me than you guys will ever know. It's a lot of work, a lot of energy, and a lot of my life right here on camera. So anyhow, David had the unicorn horn of amplifiers. There's a couple of them on my checklist that I want to check off, and it's not because I haven't built bigger boxes than what they are. I have. It's what they are is the reason that I want them. Like, I've always wanted to have the suitcase 16-pill messenger, actual original big box suitcase messenger. I think I did an actual YouTube video on that. I've totally ripped it down, completely cleaned it, had the heat sinks reanodized, had the cabinet repowder coated or reanodized, ended up painting the shroud on the back of the cabinet because it was gold and it was all chewed up, ended up welding that all up, sanding that all down, making it all look pretty. I probably put 200 or 300 hours, probably about 200 hours, 3-4 days working on it straight, 5 days working on it, spread out, new power wire to it, completely restored and rebuilt the remote, had it silk screened. It absolutely looks mint. But for me to be able to get that amp, in turn I have agreed, this was forever ago, agreed that I'd build him 2 kick-ass 8-pills plus a 2-pill driver with a switchable section in it. And he's one of these guys that wants me to build him the spaceship. You know, he wants to have a remote console that's like this freaking long. It's got 60 switches on it, but if you set one of those switches wrong, the whole thing is going to explode. I told him no, I don't want to build that. I want to build him something safe that he's going to have a lot of fun getting able to talk on it. He wanted me to originally set the messenger up so I could turn off one 16-pill section or one 8-pill section, turn the other one on, run it as a 16-pill, run it as a 2-pill, or run it with a 2 driving 8 or the 2 driving 16, which made no sense to me. I said, listen, I don't want to butcher this very rare amplifier because they're pretty hard to find. Now that I put this video out there, there's going to be like 10 people coming up to me. Hey, man, I got one of them sitting in my closet. You want to build me some kick-ass boxes and trade? Nope. Sorry. No. Ship sailed. So I got his 16 transistors down, or his 8 transistors down. Got my output transformers put in, got the bias bars put in. Now, technically, I could get away with one. Just put one resistor over here, run the current off, and it wouldn't overload. I just like this style. I always have. This is the exact same circuit that, believe it or not, is in a Messenger, the exact same circuit that's in a Palomar. The Pride ones, they just grounded it. Just silliness, but I'm going to build some extra love into this. I really want Dave to be able to have a lot of fun with this. So this is his time to turn and burn, and I think before I go any further with this, I need to start shooting some video stock of it, right? So that's where we're at. So David, we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn this thing into a work of art for just you. Now, what I want to do is I'm back on the internal capacitor kick. I kind of let it go when I started taking on super capacitors. I was like, man, super capacitors are the way of the future. This guy is going to have a super capacitor. When it comes to money, David does not back down. He says, oh, okay, if that's what we're doing. And then he just sits there and saves up the money and gets it done. That and his hot rod Freightliner he's got. So I think I'm going to put an internal capacitor bank in this thing. Just for shits and grins. Just for fun. Now, I don't like to have the RF crossover any of the positive rail distribution. If you sit there and you watch it with a FLIR, anywhere the coax will cross over any of these connections, those connections actually have a tendency to heat. It's like induction or something, right? A miracle, isn't it? So, when I was at Puyallup, I made a mental note that I needed to buy some things. I had a very, very nice gentleman sell me this giant bag of ends. It's little tiny strips and slices and dices and pieces and parts and parts and pieces. Sell this to me at a really good price. He also sold me some big sheets at a really awesome price, which was a godsend. Because if you knew how much we had to pay for these little tiny pieces, it would take your breath away. Like these two pieces here, for me to purchase those from a normal supplier, they're like $1.50. So there's probably $200 in that bag, if not more. Some of the little pieces that were in there just happen to be cut like this. And we're going to turn these into distribution bars. I think if you guys have been paying attention, you would have seen it in the 4-pill video I just did. Where we jam that sucker together, and man, that box runs. I mean, it runs 1,000 watts, no problem. So this leads us back to the beginning of the story. How do I want to go about getting the RF from here over to here without having these cross and have some kind of ground plate that's in between? Well, I can't remember the name of the guy. Oh, man. He was on his way out, getting burned out, and the company was starting to go under when I was coming into the game. But he used to build these really pretty boxes where he'd take all the power wires and everything and run it all underneath the board. A big giant spaghetti mess underneath the board, but it looked cool on the top side. I want to say Destroyer, one Dominator. I think it was Destroyer amplifiers. I could be wrong. Had a couple of them show up over here. Towards the end, the amps were just a little sketchy. I'll put it like that. You can tell that he just basically lost the passion for it, because man, that guy could build. He had some beautiful skill sets. So I'm going to take a page from his book. I'm not creating anything fancy. I think we're going to take the outgoing RF from this 4-pill section and the outgoing RF from this 4-pill section. And we're going to tuck them underneath the board, and then we're going to bring it back up on this side of the board. The reason we want to do that is because we never, ever, 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 ever want to take our output RF and cross our positive rails. It's bad. It'll cause you a lot of problems. Might not detect it here on a workbench, but the guy goes to try to run the thing in his mobile and he's going to have some problems. So we're going to take a page out of his book. We're going to cheat a little bit. We're going to go down underneath and bring them straight back up, so when we take our power wires, we'll run them right down the center and then out. So at no point will the RF inside the coaxes cross over our positive rail. They might run parallel to each other, but that's okay. We can wipe that out and change the resonance of the wire by throwing a couple extra pieces of ferrite on it. But we don't want them to cross. Don't cross the streams, like they said in
There's something very important I forgot to tell you.
What?
Don't cross the streams.
Why?
It would be bad.
I'm fuzzy on the whole good-bad thing. What do you mean bad?
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total.
So you guys start getting your pennies together, because I've got two very beautiful 3500Z boxes that I'm going to throw up on this workbench sometime this weekend and get ready to get rid of them. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure that this video is going to come out before those other two. I'm in no hurry to do anything with those other amps. I bought them for the explicit purpose of putting them up here for you all to be able to enjoy and buy. So, and you think that's neat? Man, we had a ham fest today that my #1 guy was at, and he found me the bomb-diggiest freaking amp. I am excited. I can't, oh, you guys. All I'm going to say is Tentec and 4CX 1600B. And we'll go from there. Okay, I'm going to start punching some holes in this thing. I'm going to actually physically start doing some work instead of standing here talking to you guys and making you guys feel like you're dying on the inside, because I know this is just painful for you all to sit around and listen to me babble on about the possibilities of things. So on that note, I shall return. It's friggin' gorgeous outside today. It's like 65 degrees. Birds are chirping. I got the door of the shop hanging wide open, so if we hear cars driving by or like that airplane that's passing over, nothing I can do about it, and I don't care. It's just nice. It's nice to not have to have the air conditioning running or the heater running, or this is like the perfect time of year when you can go outside and do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about sweating. It's a little bit too cold for shorts, but just perfect for wearing pants and not breaking out in a sweat. So we're back over here on David's box one more time. Let's see, since we left you last, the input and output combiners are in place. We've got our coaxes run and our combiners installed. And like I was explaining in the previous section of the video, what we can do here is we can just run the coax down the bottom side of the cabinet. We've got it soldered here, and then it passes through grommets back here. The reason it goes through grommets is because we don't want this jacket to wear through and make contact with the board. That'll screw up the tune. You only want to solder the coax in two places for the most part. At its input point and its terminus point. You want to kind of float it above ground. I've had that happen in the past where I had these big ornate boxes and I had solder joints, and the solder joint distances weren't equal on each one of the runs of coax, and it made it have an imperfect reference to ground. So that's that. So now the reason this is tilted at a side angle is that we have to compensate for this distance here. Because remember, these coax links have to be exactly precisely the same and also on the input. So I'm going to do something fun, something different with the output, because I'm going to run the output coax this way and over here to this section and then to this section. But we have to compensate for the distance and length from here to here. And normally what guys will do is they just wrap the coax up in this big bundle around the splitter. I've never liked that. It doesn't look very good. But it's a quick, easy way of dealing with the coax. So, but I'm guilty of doing it. So today what we're going to try and do is get about 99% to almost 100% done on the amp and get it installed in the cabinet to where I can key it up and run it. I don't know if I'll be able to get the fans done today or not. But as I was doing this, like I explained in the previous section of this video, is that these two are going to be capacitor banks. Well, I was just going to straight solder them like I did on that 4-pill that I just did here about a week ago. But you have to remember that this is a living, breathing unit. It has to be able to flex. So now I got to think this guy's going to put this in his semi-truck, and he's going to go bouncing down the road. This board will bend in the middle because the support structure's on the sides and in the back, the coax connectors. That's the reason that I like to do hot glue, and the only place I like to do hot glue is on the splitters and the combiners, because these have to be able to move a little bit. They have to have a little bit of flexibility. I've tried every kind of epoxy you can think of. It all pops off, and it's because the board moves. Or if we go and we scuff up the board underneath the hot glue, one, we give it a very rough surface to bond to the hot glue to bond, and two, it can flex. Like this joint can flex a little bit. Please note on this particular application, I've only got these two tabs soldered. That is for a reason. Now we're going to stick our entire bias control circuit and all that stuff over here in the corner, out of the way, behind over here someplace. And we're going to use one of the 5 amp Omrons. I did have somebody make me totally aware that there is such a thing as an 8 amp, but it's not made by Omron, relay that is sellable at Mauser. Well, I've bought those in the past, and I'm here to tell you, they're just 5 amp relays. Sorry, I've got a friend, this guy that I was really hoping we could do a lot with. Was really hoping to grow him and show him a bunch of stuff, and he went off on his own little path, and all you can do is stand back and watch. And one of the things he's doing is building 4-pills with little 5 amp relays, and man, destined to fail. But we gotta love him anyhow. It'll work out. He'll learn from his lessons. He'll have to replace a couple relays, and he'll go, oh, well, maybe this wasn't such a great idea. It is what it is. I had to go down that same path. I had to learn the same way. It's called Life of Hard Knocks. It's all good. So, back on task. Where we're going to go today is we're going to get the input side of this thing done. We're going to get the relay tied in. We're going to do the bias circuit. And the last thing we're going to do is put in the capacitor bank. So, probably drop in the capacitor bank, and then we'll do the power wires. I am going to have them come out of the board over here and go through a Heiko connector out through the cabinet. That's what I was doing just before I turned on the camera. As I was sitting here looking, at what this thing looks like and is going to look like in its completed state. This guy is going to be able to talk his heart out on sideband. There are other builders out there that would go ahead and they would use a 16-pill cabinet, but what they were doing is they were cheating the customer, and they were only using this much heatsink. And so they'd block off these transistor holes with like aluminized tape, or they'll block it off with copper tape, and be able to double down. You know what I mean? This day has given me a headache. All right. Well, 0, and let's see here, 52 megahertz. So right down the middle is channel 6. Figured, why not? Okay. We're gonna tell it to stop. Or stopped. I want to make that dead center. Here we go. Now let's see what happens. Poof. Let's see, that's a 1.01 from 1.06 from 25 megahertz whatever to 1.1 all the way out of 30 megahertz. Let's take and change our span to 10. Yeah. I'll call that good. It's our pass-through SWR, by the way. Otherwise, this circuit interacting with the fact that it's going from shielded coax to unshielded coax through the relay, through all these different connections across here and then back out. 0. And I made you look. Okay. On to the next step. I've got to hook up the bias wires. But I would normally wait to hook the bias up after I key the amplifier. God, it's been a stressful day. Oh, that's sexy looking. Them low profile, high density capacitors. That's really pretty. Okay, I gotta put a ton of slobber down very quickly. So, it's like, it rolls downhill. Guy has bad day, thinks about things that are irritating him, doesn't understand what's taken me so long, thinks I'm going to call, I'm going to check in, when it's Monday, knowing that I'm closed Saturday and Sunday. I hate Mondays, by the way. The phone rings almost nonstop. That's what happened today. Phone rang all day long, texts all day long. I just gave up. I didn't get all the phone calls returned today. I couldn't. I couldn't. I ran out of piss and vinegar in my step to get phone calls returned today. You guys ever wonder how I do this? This is how I do it. It's that. It's a big enough iron to do the job. So, this used to be my biggest iron I had in the shop. This is a Weller, like 150 watt. Saw him at Hamfest a week and a half ago. And this took me back to when I was a kid. First I seen this iron here. That's a big scooch in iron. Iron A, iron B. On the same table, I made a completely different discovery in a box. Iron B, iron C. When you plug this one in and you hold on to the element, you can literally feel the element going in your hand. It's crazy. It's crazy. That is a big son of a gun. So I'm sure you guys will get to see me use these in the future. I couldn't help myself. They were like $25 and $15 a piece. I had to grab them. So that's what the underside of this thing looks like. It took a long time to set it up. Will anybody ever see it? No. Do I know it's there? Yeah. Does the owner of the box know it looks like that? Yeah. Do you all know about it? Yeah, until you forget about it 10 minutes from now. This is just challenging. Mondays are rough. Always have been. And I only got a couple more of these I got to put in. Yeah. And then all I got to do is vinyl and fans. Which is cool. Alright, let's make sure these are lined up somewhat. Now the whole idea behind these capacitors is to help smooth out the voltage dip that takes place in the violent process of sideband. Okay, so I have people ask me all the time, what's all the point behind the capacitors? There's not a whole lot of storage. It is not a lot of storage. You're correct. But it's enough to slow the violent voltage surge that takes place inside the cabinet. It's a very small amount of control, has a very small dampening effect, very small, but it's present. And it's really hard on the transistors, especially taking into account most people's electrical systems are woefully inadequate for what they're trying to do with them. I can't tell you how many phone calls I field every day with the guy calling me, says, man, I got the biggest alternator I can get in my Toyota, my Honda, whatever, is 150 amps, but damn it, I want to run a 24 pill in it. That math don't work out. It just doesn't work out. So you go and you talk about sideband, which is basically pulsing the signal, because there's no base carrier to it, so there's no base load, the amplifier in operation, and that's what this thing is specifically designed to do, is to just handle sideband as amp loads going on, off, on, off, on, off. So there's a lot of current flowing back and forth inside the system. What I'm trying to do is just smooth out the voltage dip of 14 volts, 12 volts, 14 volts, 12 volts, 14 volts, 12 volts. This guy, yes, he's going to have a supercapacitor, thank God. And that'll smooth it out a bunch. But internally, a localized source is about as good as we're going to get. That, and it just looks pretty. Two more. I remember I did one of these once. And I put a big capacitor bank in it like this in it. And here down inside I had two of them. But when I put the caps in, I put them in upside down. So positive, negative is positive. Man, that thing exploded like fireworks on the 4th of July. I plugged the power in, it was pow! Holy cow! What'd I do? I thought I had something shorted out on the inside. I did. It was just the capacitors polarized the wrong direction. So clean the mess up and move on, but actually there's this really famous picture of one of my boxes that's out there running around where I show the capacitor bank. I think it was in like a 24 pill. And I didn't see it until after I'd shot the picture and put it on Facebook and everything. I go back and I look at it and I'm like, wait a minute. Right there, dead center, right in the field of view, two caps backwards. I was like, son of a gun. I didn't put power to it, but I come close. Okay. Let me take the camera off the tripod and we'll fly it around this box. Give me a second. Okay. This is it. 8 Toshibas, red dots, fully biased, crossed over, on-off, sideband delay, absolute beautiful pass-through tune. I mean, like, I cannot emphasize how pretty that is. And what we were measuring was the resistance to the signal coming in, going through the relay, and coming back out. I really, really took my time in how I laid this out. This is our bias wire. This is our other bias wire. It comes around, loops around, goes to the load resistors, splitters, our output capacitors, our output coax. They come out over here. That way the power wires and the coaxes never cross. These are our remote feeds. This one is the remote feed, and this one here is the hot feed for the bias. Our entire keying circuit's over here in the corner. Also our entire bias circuit's over here in the corner, kind of shrunk down, miniaturized. And then that runs underneath the board and goes out to each one of these sections. So yeah. Now, just so we know, pin 1 is hot, pin 2 is on, pin 3 is sideband delay. Okay? Now there's only one part left that's going to keep me from keying this thing, other than my shorting bars. And I've got to emulate load, close relay, and do some other really quick stuff, but I'm missing my 10 puff cap from my keying circuit over to the coax connector. I got it preloaded right here. So let me get this slapped in. And when we cut back, I think we might actually be keying this thing up. So on that note, I shall return. Okay, well, it's all done. Lid's all put back together. We got aluminized tape on the bottom of the fans. We found with the variable frequency drive high flow fans like these, sometimes RF likes to get in and screw up the oscillators that control the fans. So we found just a couple layers of aluminized tape really help protect that. And since the fans are going to be directly above the tuning network, you know, a little bit of shielding never hurt no one. 1,000 watt slug in average, or pardon me, make sure I'm not lying to you guys about nothing. 1,000 watt slug in peak, right there. 1,000 in average, 5 watt slug in reverse, back from the Bird 10,000 watt dummy load. We're going to use a 2950 with the 5 watt slug between the 2950 and the 8 pill. Then we're going to use a Striker 955 with the 5 watt slug between the 955 and the 8 pill. Then we're going to use the 490. We're going to use a 5 watt slug between the 490 and then the 8 pill. Then for maximum test, we're going to use my 2 pill driver and the derail radio. And I have no idea what we're going to see for numbers. I haven't tested it that far. But that allows my end consumer, by running it with all these different radios, it's going to show them what it does with a 20 watt radio. It's going to show them what it does with a 90 watt radio. It's going to show them what it does with a 150 or 130 watt radio. And it's going to show them what it does with a couple hundred watts of drive. All the way across the board. The one that we're going to see the huge bird numbers on is going to be this guy. We have to show all units of measure, and we have to show it in a consistent order that never changes in every single video. Otherwise you, the end user, gets confused. And if you're confused, the data that I'm showing you, it's pooped right out the window. Then there's no point in even shooting the video in the first place. At least that's my opinion. Okay, so yeah, let's turn this off. Let's grab the mic for the 2950. Hello, audio. 20 watts worth of drive. There's our pass-through tune, which also represents our ability to hear. And as we know, because we used the KC901 in a couple previous segments, it's almost like the amp isn't even there. Now, with our new modified low drive keying circuit, we can key this amp now at a 1/4 watt. So 1/4 watt worth of drive allows that relay to fully latch. The lower we can get that sensitivity, the better and the longer life that you're going to have on your relay contact points as you're doing sideband. Now we've engaged our sideband switch. And that delay is what we're listening to. Now this thing is fully in sideband all the time. It's always in Class B or AB1, depending on who you want to talk to. Me personally, it's Class B. Let's put the radio up in sideband. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Hello, 1 2 1 2. Hello. Now you see our peak kit and our average numbers marry up. It's exactly what we want. So let's reach up there. We'll grab the 2950 and we'll go back to AM. Hello. Hello. About 600 peak on AM. Hello. About 200 average. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. 0.2 of a watt worth of input reflect. Okay. Let's be done with that. Let's turn on our 955. I've never had a radio or an amplifier tune the way this one did. Normally I have to do a bunch of little fiddly farting around on the inside of this thing, chasing just the right combination of induction and capacitance to get everything to lay down just the way I want it to. This amplifier was not that. You notice? There's no shorting bars anywhere. Oh yeah. 2 for the pink, 1 for the stink. There's no shorting bars anywhere. The induction happened to be spot on. I've taken notes. Because all I had to do was pull this out, shove that in, and everything went down to 0. Output power went way up, and the amplifier took way off. I'm going to recreate this on the next one that I build. Alright, so we've shut the amp off now. Back over on the 1000 watt scale. Whole whopping 90 watts worth of drive. Watch what this does with 90 watts of drive. Lays it completely over in the corner, as we knew it would. I'm going to shoot most of this with the lid off, because them fans are pretty loud. Remember, this thing is going to go underneath a dude's sleeper in his truck. So it's going to have lots of airspace, but I don't have to worry about the guy sitting right on top of it. That's the reason we went with the Maximo fans. We blocked off 2 of the fan ports. That, and we're going to get more air cooling that way by having the air flow from the back of the cabinet to the front. Okay, still on the 955. It's about 1200, almost 1300 peak watts. And here's our amp draw. This is really important. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, audio. At 114 amps. Stryker doesn't even know the radio or the amp's there. That's beautiful. We're not going to get a better tune than that. Taking into account there's going to be a lot of inconsistencies in the environment that this thing is going to be used in. On the bench, everything stays the same. The cable lengths stay the same, all that. But now you go out into the real world and you start hooking up stuff. You don't know that your jumpers are all going to be precisely the same length. You don't know that all the connections are going to be perfect the way they are here. So we want to try and give it the best chance for success, and that's what we provided. Sideband switch off. Now we're going to turn the amp off. Let's go over here, and we'll turn on the Stryker. 490. Now, on that scale, it's showing me, remember, we're doubled. So that first hash mark right there is 200 watts. So let's go down to the 1x scale. We all know from the video that I did on just the radio itself, we're going to get about 150 out of it. So now we've increased our input power by a whopping 60 watts. Turn the amp on. Back on the 2 watts, or back on the 2 times scale. Right between the 40 and the 50 on the scale is that hash mark, which is 1000. So every major graduated hash mark going forward is an extra 200 watts. So with 150 watts of drive, 1650. Now that's where we would run out of poop with your standard suite. Same number of transistors, but that's about the most you'd ever see out of your standard suite. It's time to put the lid on. And things are going to get loud, you guys. So if you're listening on headphones, you might want to turn the volume down. Give me a second. Okay, so we got the lid on. And like I said, it's going to get a little loud. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do this in 2 stages. We're going to go for max peak power, and then we're going to go for max average power. Now the radios that we're going to achieve that with are 2 different things. Okay, we use a 2950 driving into the 2-pill, hitting the 16. Okay, first we're going to see that needle hit the stop peg. Now we're going to come back and we're going to hook up the D-Row radio, which we know doesn't make as much peak, but it makes a whole lot more average power than this radio. This is like a 25 watt radio. It's like a 22 watt radio. This one's about 2 or 3 bird or 5 bird or whatever. This is like 12 or 15 bird. Which one's louder? Doesn't really matter. I'm just showing it to you as a unit of measure. So let's start with the 2950. So I got the 2950 hitting the 2-pill with a 3-foot jumper in between the 2-pill and the 8-pill. Let's start down here on 1X. 1X. We're going to jam a ton of drive in this thing. So go up to 2X. 200 watt mark, or the 400 watt mark. Just as before, just half. So we're seeing about 700 average and about 2200 peak. Now remember, we're on 14 volts right now. Okay? So we could do better. I could hook it up to the 1000 amp supply and I could crank the voltage up a little bit and get it to do more, because on the 14 volt supply, when we key, we know we're going to drop internally to about 13.2, 13.5. Nothing we can do about that. So we know what our peak numbers are, which is a couple thousand watts, which is exactly where it should be. This is going to hurt you guys' brain. I can guarantee it. So, everything is before. Let's go over here. We're going to turn this down to 1X. Now this is reading full deflection, looking at that bottom scale. Let's go up here. Turn on the old derail radio. See that? About 30, 40 less watts peak from the 2-pill than what we were getting with the RCI 2950. Literally double the bird. Okay. Up in 2X. Believe you me when I tell you it's really taxing my power supplies at this point. See how long it's taking the power supply to recover? I gotta know. I gotta know. Let me hook up to the 1000 amp power supply. Let's see what it does when it's got unlimited current. Give me a second. Okay. So now, we've gone over to the 1000 amp supply. We're resting at 15.47. Here's our amp draw, right down here. So, just to show you that nothing else has changed, same amount of drive as before. I wonder what the performance is going to be. Let's see. So our goal is 14.8, right? So we'll achieve that. Look at our amp draw. Way less amp draw. The reason for that is that we're able to keep our voltage up. More volts, less amps. 2 times position, 1000 watt, 2000 watt slug, and 1000 watt slug in average. Holy shit! Look at that. Look at that. Alright. So let's change some slugs around so we can get a valid form of measurement here. We're going to take this down to 5X, and then let's see, I'm going to need from here my 5000 watt slug. So we'll take them, I got to do this without breaking away on the camera angle. 5000 watt slug, we're just going to leave it right there. We take the 1000 watt slug and we're going to sit it right there. Okay. So 1000 watt slug and 5 times position. So now we're reading that middle scale, folks. See the 10, the 20, the 30, the 40, the 50? That's right. We're going to add 2 zeros. The same thing with this slug, 5,000 watt in average. That's amazing. All right, here we go. And we'll probably be somewhere in here, right in here on the peak numbers. Oh, yep. Now look at the peak numbers over here. Oh, 1,500 peak, and about 2,500, or pardon me, 2,500 peak, and about 1,500 average. Now, let's go in reverse. Let's disconnect the derail radio from the equation. Let's go back to the striker that produces, or the 2950 that produces just a hair more peak power, and revalidate what we got going on. We're going to see our average numbers drop way off. I'm just wondering if we'll get more peak out of it now. Same peak. Lost about 500 in average watts. Well, look, our voltage drop's gone way down too. So's our amperage consumption. Tenth of a volt there. Almost 60 amps difference on the drop. This amplifier is kicking ass. Well, David, this turned out beautifully. You got 2 more coming, buddy, but they're down the road. We've got some other things going on I got to float away and take care of, but I'll get this one out to you as soon as possible so you guys can get started on your installs. Damn! 2,500 peak and 1,500 average out of a straight 8 pill. Built my way with my design with my parts. Versus your 16 pill that you had that was pulling more current and producing a third the power. Interesting, I think. Anywho, I don't know, I'm not going to get wrapped up in it. I hope you enjoy this, Mr. D. I appreciate your patience. And gentlemen, I appreciate everybody's patience. I've got so many projects going on, and a lot of people have sent their equipment to me, and I'm working on it as fast as I can, but when I can only work on 1 or 2 amplifiers a day at the most, you know, I've got a lot of work here, and I'm doing the best I can to stay ahead of it for all of you guys. So please be patient. I will get to everybody as quickly as I can. And once again, as always, I thank every single one of you guys for checking in, watching this video, and being willing to trust me with your equipment and let me work on it for you. On that note, I'm going to say, gentlemen, my name is BBI, and without a shadow of a doubt, I am the biggest mud duck in Idaho. Period. Check us out, www.bbiamps.com. And also, if you're interested in getting a BBI t-shirt, a BBI jacket, or a BBI hat, please feel free to message boxbuildershirts@gmail.com. You will get busted out a full price list. They're also on the webpage, listed the prices. You have to message the email, and from there you'll get a response, and we'll get the deals done. I just got a lot of 600 shirts in, something like 200 hats, and the coats, believe it or not. People are buying the heck out of those, so get in while the getting's good. Gentlemen, I gots to get. I appreciate you all stopping in and checking this out. Every single one of you, I say thank you. David, I hope you truly enjoy this masterpiece I built you. There's more to come. Guys, I gotta go. I'll see ya. Bump, bump.